Welcome to the Liverpool Community Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Johnson Lynch, and I gotta tell you, this is kind of like a weird one for me. Old home week. It's like I'm going back to school. Going back to school because I'm joined here by two of my favorite teachers who like had such an impact on my life and impact on your lives because if you've been watching my show, I've constantly talking about my counseling training and everything. And so the masters behind that, is Duane O'Kane and Catherine O'Kane from Claremont International. How you guys doing?
Oh, thanks, Chase. We're doing good.
Great to be here.
Well, yeah, no, it's excellent to have you here in the studio, guys, because it's like it's been ages and stuff because obviously COVID has impacted your work, even though you guys are from Canada and everything, but you travel the country. You've come here to Liverpool many a times, mainly because, Duane, you are a big Beatles fan.
Yeah, and I figured out last night that I think we've been here 40 times now.
Ooh,
since
40 times.
2008.
Wow, 40 times and everything like that. And I was in the beginning, I was a baby back then. So he doesn't mean 40 years, just means 40 times. Because they do various different counseling workshops, which we're going to, talk about and everything. But one of the main things that we're talking about today is that, like, not only are you guys authors of the book Real, but now I would say maybe filmmakers, because it's now a documentary film.
We're a subject of filmmakers anyways.
We're
Yeah,
the
well,
subject
that's right.
of a
Somebody made the film
documentary.
about Real and everything. Can you tell us about Real, please?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, in Liverpool alone, we've been here 40 times. We've been many places all over the world, published our book in 2016. A lot of people know our work and experience our work. And then we get approached by a film crew, a producer who's done our work.
Yeah.
He says, we want to come in and film a weekend workshop. And initially
Yeah.
we thought, are you crazy? We're going to have, do you know how intimate the environment is?
Yes.
And creating a sense of emotional safety and confidentiality and all those things that we have to really, really take care of. And why would somebody want to kind of talk vulnerably about their life when you got cameras pointing at you and microphones everywhere and gaffers and grips and
And just to back up slightly, our weekend workshops are therapeutic. There's probably a maximum ever of 24 people in that room.
Yeah.
In this particular documentary, we had 16 total. So it's a very intimate environment.
Yeah.
So
to think about successfully, embracing the nature and the soul of our work successfully, I didn't know. I felt like it could be a crapshoot. It may not work. People are just going to be too stiff, and we may be too stiff, and we won't capture
Or
it.
trying to perform even.
Yeah, exactly. And none of that. It was like a rock being thrown into water. It just sunk right to the depths of our work, and it was profound. It was like we forgot cameras were there.
and that was partly due to the skill of the film crew. I mean, they
Absolutely.
were very subtle.
And
Even though they
respectful.
were there, they were very subtle and respectful. But it really captured the magic of the group therapeutic process.
I got to tell you a bit about the magic, because it's the fact of that, because you, like you said, you totally get washed away. You get, you sink into, like your inner child, your world, your past, and you're not even bothered anymore. Usually some people will probably think, oh, I don't know if I could say that because if it's being recorded. But once you're in there, and stuff, and you can't really help it. And I mean, that's one skill, a testament to your skill, but also a testament to the work. I mean, like, let's talk about, because a lot of people have heard about counseling, therapy, and all that. One of the things I was interested in when I first started is that it was called Transpersonal Psychology. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit about that, Catherine?
The definition of transpersonal psychology is that it's a positive psychology, so it's a form of positive psychology, and it also has this kind of umbrella over it that says that human relationships create something that transcends the personal. So, you could call that spirituality if you like. We're not religious per se, but
Right.
there's something in our human connection that is bigger than just our individual selves. And certainly that's part of why we've chosen to work with groups instead of just individuals, because we see that and we work with that. Human beings are wired for connection.
Yeah. And don't they also connect to each other?
Exactly.
Like in a sense where it's like if somebody sitting over there addresses an issue, then someone over here may have had something similar.
Yeah.
And everything, and it sparks or it ignites, that kind of feeling and thought into their own cellular memory, doesn't
we're
it?
impacting each other all of the time,
True.
not just in a workshop,
Yeah.
walking down the street,
Yeah.
standing in an elevator, right? When you walk into an elevator and you think this is a time that doesn't really count because I'm in the middle of going from A to B.
Yeah.
But you're standing in an elevator, and what do people do? They all stare up at the numbers. When is this over? But we're actually connected all of the time, and what we're communicating to each other all the time has impact. So even in an elevator, we're basically saying you don't exist. Mm-hmm. And we don't. If we could really measure the impact on our psyches all day long of getting messages that I don't matter, I don't count, and conversely that I do count and I do matter. What we do in our workshops is really uphold this need that we all have of needing to be connected and and to care about each other. To the degree that we ignore that and pretend that we're just these little islands floating around in our private little world in our devices, will equal the degree that we're kind of sick, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually, to the extent that we are separate. And so really all we're in our workshops, we are just unpacking all of that.
We're actually helping humans to find the way back into a felt sense of connection.
Yeah.
Because that is, as Duane said, it's a fundamental human need.
Yeah.
300,000 years of human evolution is behind that, right? If we are not connected, we don't survive.
True.
It's a driver,
Yeah.
fundamentally. We need to feel connected, to feel safe, to feel like we can be ourselves, all of those things.
And the thing about it is, it seems like it's something so simple after the fact, but it's so hard. Just thinking about going in there. I think you say something about if life was easy, it would be hard.
If we
Tell me your quote, please.
if we
You do it better.
if we do what's easy, which is to constantly just back off into our comfort zones. I just want to be alone with my device and not talk and not be. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
It's easy, right? Just to just get comfortable. If we do what's easy, life becomes hard.
Yeah.
But if we do what's hard, which is to actually come forth, here I am, here you are, let's meet, let's connect, life becomes easy.
Yeah.
And we should maybe also back up and talk about how come it's hard. How come it's hard?
Well, how come it's hard?
Thank you, Chase, for asking that question. I appreciate it. Despite the fact that we're wired for connection, we also have a history of being disconnected. So in really important moments, particularly when we're younger, something happens and we feel disconnected. And particularly when we're young, that moment is really terrifying. So sometimes it's a result of what we consider trauma, what people would obviously label trauma, like when somebody's being abused or hit or yelled at or whatever. Sometimes it's really a lot more subtle, as when some part of you isn't seen or acknowledged or heard, because a child needs that kind of attention to become themselves.
Of course.
So all of a sudden, I'm not seen, I'm not heard, there's disconnection, I feel terrified, my brain isn't sophisticated enough yet to understand what's happening, and so I just literally feel like there's something wrong with me at an emotional level. And when that happens, when we feel like there's something wrong with us and we make up a meaning about that, there is something wrong with me, we then develop strategies. What do I have to do now to get connected again? What do I have to do to survive? Who do I have to become? become a people pleaser, become a performer. But that persona isn't real.
Exactly.
And therefore, we don't feel connected. Because at some level, we have this sense, oh, if you really knew me. We only feel connected when we're brave enough to be real. And so we got to find our way back.
Love how she brings it back to the title of the book.
That's correct. And the doc.
No,
There's a reason
yeah,
for the title.
and the doc. But no, it's you know, it makes so much sense because like, well, what I find, which is really powerful, is the healing process, like you just said, because there are several different exercises that people will go through on your workshop to achieve this sense of self-discovery, because this impact of who we made up about ourselves, you know, usually goes throughout our whole life, and we just are reactors, aren't we, to that. But then when we find out the truth that it's not our fault. You know, I remember back in the old days when Good Will Hunting was out, and we used to, you know, talk about Good Will Hunting a lot. That scene with Matt Damon and Robin Williams talking about it's not your fault, and the impact of just being connected, you know, with the eyes and saying it's not your fault, and he breaks through. I wouldn't say he breaks down. He breaks through.
Robin Williams as the therapist in Good Will Hunting, dealing with this, you know, delinquent young man who's just wants to fight everybody.
Yeah.
Sees through Matt Damon's defense.
Yeah.
And sees that underneath it all is just a little kid suffering, that's been alone, neglected, abused, who made up that it must have been his fault that his dad abused him.
Yeah.
And he was a brilliant therapist. He just saw through that and just spoke right to the core of what Matt Damon had made up about himself as a child. And you just saw him break. And finally just fall, you know, metaphorically into his father's arms. Because all he wanted was to be protected.
But the freeingness of that realization that it is not my fault is really what people experience. And even though they also sometimes come back, don't they? You know, clear mind is also about relationships, isn't it? I mean, you know, that's kind of like a big thing, isn't it? Like the relationship of self, but relationship to others.
Absolutely.
You know, and in that aspect is that like I was saying to you before we started, is like you guys tell amazing stories and experience you share of yourselves wholeheartedly and everything, and like you shared of your relationship, which congratulations, I think you just hit 20 years.
Yes.
Congratulations on that and everything, and 20 years together, I mean.
20
years married. We've been together since 1996.
Yeah, 20 years married. But it wasn't hard. It was hard in the beginning a little bit, you know. And
More than a little bit.
Okay. I wasn't there. But, yeah, I mean, but because we as people, we have a way of, this is how I like to be. Like you were like, I like my relationship to be like this. And you're like, well, I want a relationship like this. And then you guys kind of like confronted each other, where I'd rather you tell the story because it's a beautiful story and stuff like that about, you would say to Catherine, you know, Catherine, maybe this is not working out.
Yeah, so to put the context around that story, everyone, because of these early experiences of disconnection, everyone has a kind of barometer for how close it feels comfortable to be inside. It's like this little thermostat. It goes, okay, this is the level of closeness that we are allowed to be. We don't always think about it that way. Usually what happens in a relationship is one person is pursuing and the other person is running away and distancing.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? We do this little dance, pursuer, distancer. Yeah. But the reality is that little dance, the function of it is to sustain that familiar distance for both people. So I was the pursuer. I thought that I knew how to be close. I had plans about how we should be close. I made plans. I would cheerlead the relationship. And Duane was the distancer, so he would fly away. He would run away.
I was really good at it.
Right? I would be pursuing, he would be running. Eventually, I would get cranky about it. And my style is not to get overtly aggressive, because that's not how my family works. Instead, I was passive aggressive. So I would get cranky and cold.
Cold. Like cold.
Right? Shivery cold. And I would communicate that, my unhappiness. And Duane is not passive aggressive. Duane is much more direct.
Yeah.
And so he would come out with, Catherine, what's your name?
Maybe this just isn't working out. And I wouldn't say that to end the relationship. I would just say that to get things back in this comfort zone where she overfunctions, moves the goalposts, does whatever she can to make sure I don't go away.
Yeah.
And I can rely on that.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say that. I don't think even consciously, it just worked to get things back into kind of a status quo that we were both familiar with.
And so part of what happens in this distance is if we inch into this unfamiliar territory, we have to confront fears in ourselves about what could happen if somebody really saw deeply into who we are. Because that's what happens. We have this familiar distance for a reason. You get in here, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah,
now what are you going to see?
I'm running because I came from an alcoholic. My father was a binge drinking alcoholic. A lot of violence in the home. I kind of made up that men were bad, including me. And if somebody got too close to me for too long, they're going to find that out. So better that I keep this persona up of being pursued, seeking you shall never find. Just always, and I could keep this illusion that I'm okay, so long as she doesn't get too close, because she's going to find out. And so I would run.
And I'm pursuing because I have a history of not fitting into my group on the schoolyard. I grew up in a small town with the same group right from elementary school all the way through. And I never quite figured out how to fit in.
Yeah.
So I learned how to people please. I learned how to perform. I learned how to overfunction, which means you do way more than your share of the relationship.
Of course.
So underlying that is a fear that I'm not okay as I am. Right? So I pursue, I people please. Duane runs, Duane distances. So he would say, Catherine, maybe this isn't working out. It would go right into that fear that I'm not okay, and that would trigger that overfunctioning response over and over again. Okay, I'll just make everything all right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to people please. And that's how, particularly in intimate relationships, we get into these entrenched patterns.
All relationships will find that stuck place eventually, where you return to where you came from.
Yeah.
Right? And there's an opportunity in every relationship there. It takes one person to actually strike a match to the possible evolution of the relationship, but it takes two for it to continue.
Ooh.
So one day he says to me, Catherine, maybe this isn't working out. And I felt that horrible pang in my body. Oh no, maybe I'm not enough. That familiar feeling. Now, I am a well-educated psychotherapist, and I was a well-educated psychotherapist by the time that this was happening. Knowledge is not the answer. I had the knowledge. Many of us have our self-help section at home. We have the knowledge.
Of course.
We actually have to deal with the feelings that are triggering the responses that keep us stuck. So for the first time, he said that, and I, instead of doing my instinctive overfunctioning thing, I actually let myself feel the underlying feelings. The fear that I'm not enough. The fear that if I don't make this relationship work, I'm a bad, horrible person. All of that stuff. And I sat with it, and I sat with it, and I said, okay, what am I doing trying to make the relationship work? Is that actually love? I want to feel love in my life. That's going to require somebody who chooses me And it's going to require me letting somebody love me instead of just working my ass off to be loved. It's going to require me letting go of control.
Right.
So I went to him and I said, I love you. I really want this relationship to work. And the next time you say to me that you think it's not working, I will believe you.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I wasn't expecting that. And I'd come to a stage in my life where I'd been to this rodeo many times.
Oh, yeah.
Am I just going to do what I predictably have done in the past? I'm out of here. This one didn't work. Bye-bye. Look for the next one. And instead, I came back to her. It took a little while, a couple of days of really deep reflection, and came back to her and I said, I'm sorry. And I think for the first time in my life, I meant it. Not just, I'm sorry, okay, can we just carry on? That's not a real apology. This was, I am sorry. Every time we get to this place, I kind of make you the problem. You're controlling, you're pressing me, you're pushing me, every time you invite me home to be closer, I have to revisit the home I came from. And I have been blaming you for what happened there. And that's not okay, and that's not fair. I have a problem. I have a problem letting somebody get close to me. And you're never, ever going to hear me again explain it or blame you for that. I have that. That's mine.
And so that moment for us triggered an upward spiral instead of that horrible cyclical pattern. It's not like that moment fixed everything.
Of course not, yeah.
That moment actually allowed us to inch into that new territory and to start becoming familiar with what it's like to be closer.
Yeah.
Because that was a very vulnerable moment.
Yeah, I felt it.
And vulnerability invites connection.
That was probably the first time I was truly, absolutely vulnerable in my life to that degree. And that was also the very first time I got a glimpse of who she actually really was. And that's really when I fell in love with her.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
She wasn't just presenting to me her persona of who she had to be, supposed to be, could be, needs to be. She presented to me who she actually was. So she was as vulnerable. And in that moment, it can be electric. It could be astonishingly, powerfully intimate when you finally get a real glimpse of who you actually are and who the other person actually is. And a relationship can evolve instead of just being predictably. I'm sure everybody out there can relate to this.
Yeah.
Falling into this Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And nothing shifts and nothing changes and wondering what's happened. It's because you don't know each other.
Groundhog Day reference to the movie where he keeps living the same day over
Yeah.
and over again. We're old. Not necessarily everybody has watched that movie.
Well, I have. And first of all, I know you have. And I got to tell you, this was only like 5 minutes of the magic that you would generally experience with these two and everything. And I'm hoping that, it resonates. Because that story, I hold that in my heart. And everything, and about the connections of what you're saying and feel and the stuff you share with others. Let's talk about your workshops. So,
We have one coming up this weekend in London.
oh, well, there
Well,
you go.
Surrey.
You always sell yourself
In
on
Surrey.
this show. What? In Surrey.
Surrey.
Well,
London.
see, he doesn't understand the
Yeah.
difference.
Different.
He probably calls England
yeah.
Great Britain. But, so in Surrey, you have a workshop, another awakening
The
workshop.
Awakening this
Yeah,
weekend.
just
Which
finished
is
one
which
here.
is the awakening, which I think we haven't really said what it was, but that's what the overall 3-day workshop is. As Duane likes to say, it's 5 days and 3 days.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This is where you would go through this journey.
Yeah.
Well, to reconnect with yourself through connecting with others.
Yeah,
And to define exactly what the experience of connection is, it's when we see ourselves being seen, hear ourselves being heard, and feel ourselves being felt. It's like a full embodied
Yeah.
experience of being mirrored. And when that happens, we make contact with ourselves authentically.
Yeah.
So many different ways that we help people have that actual experience of making contact with their real, authentic selves.
So that's in Surrey, and basically, is there like a website or
Clearmind.com.
clearmind.com? You can always find all of the different
Yep,
workshops.
everything's on there.
Now, because we like to say the pandemic is over, huh? But they used to do all these magical workshops where they would break them down into, different pieces. So there would be the Rude Awakening, which is 2 weeks of more intense togetherness. Let's say, yeah. But then there's also
It's not really rude.
it's not that rude. Trust
It's not
me.
really rude.
You know what I mean? No. But then there was like what I like is how you split it down like Men in Miracles and Women in Wonder. Is it still called Women in Wonder? So what's amazing about this workshop is that you could do it as a couple. You don't have to, but it's magical because it's like you're on a weekend together, but you're separated until the end where you come together. That wasn't a secret, was it?
No.
Yeah, it's just a powerful experience because you get all that male energy, camaraderie stuff, and everything. But then you get the beautiful blessing of embracing your partner with new sets of eyes and stuff, which is always magic. The Take Two.
We have Take Two actually in Ireland in 2 weeks.
So Surrey in a week,
Yeah.
and Ireland. See how they travel, man. I wish I had their air miles. So Take Two is going to be in Ireland. Now Take Two is the relationship workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's going to be intense because how many relationships is destroyed? No, or how many relationships are put together? To experience. The choice is yours because the main thing is the connection that you will get out of the relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
About out of Take Two. And so
To have the experience that Catherine and I just talked about
Yeah.
of actually legitimately getting to know each other and legitimately falling in love.
yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, legitimately and stuff. Did I name them all?
I think so. The Edge, but
Oh, wait. So then the Edge. Oh my God, the Edge is going on over the edge. You wouldn't call it an addictions workshop, would you? Would you? What kind of
it's
workshop?
about
would that be?
addictions and bad habits, the things that we attach ourselves to that get us into trouble.
I mean, that's a lot of things, people, and everything, and stuff. So, clearmind.com.
Yep.
Now, Real, the documentary, like we just said, you see more of these people and everything. Don't worry about that. That's a bell. It's like a house here. But either way, Real, the documentary, is on tonight at the Plaza Crosby Cinema and everything. I believe doors open at 6:30.
6:30 from what I
And
gather.
tickets are still available, even though you could have gotten your ticket on Eventbrite. Tickets are still available at the door. You could come in and go in and stuff like that, and you get to meet these lovely people as well, and everything. But the movie is amazing and stuff.
It's going to be, I think we're going to be talking afterwards.
Yeah. Do
The
a
movie's
little
going to show, and then we're
Q&A
going to
after.
go on the stage and take questions.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God! Then you'll be here all night. help me. And so, how was it? Because you did one in Canada,
Yeah,
right?
just a
Yes.
couple weeks ago.
How was that afterwards? I
That was
mean, was there a lot of
beautiful.
questions or?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I
there's-
mean. You don't care, right? No.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a limited time for it, but
Yeah.
it was a
People go,
beautiful
come on,
time.
people, come on, calm down. That's what they say, Scout slang there. Calm down. Before we go, because Phil has given me the signal and everything like that. Not like I didn't see it with my one eye, Phil. But I want to mention something really special about this particular workshop. Music is a strong trigger with people, so it's a great bonding thing, And Duane used to, in the earlier days, he used to choose a song like Desperado, and that was one of his favorites, wasn't it, Duane?
Yeah, it still is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I know. But then because he came to England, he said, I'm gonna, look at this Robbie Williams and the song called Feel and everything like that. Now, before you say anything, he would preface it. Like, we would like sit around in a circle and we would just read the lyrics. And the first one was, "Come and hold my hand. I want to contact the living." Everyone who probably said or felt whatever they felt about Robbie went like this. Right? Tell us why, to you, that was such a powerful line.
Well, it was so raw and so vulnerable. I mean, actually, I never knew anything about Robbie Williams. You know, Robbie Williams was not and is not some big superstar over in Canada.
Sorry, Robbie.
I had no idea who he was. All I heard was that those first lines, "Come and hold my hand, I want to contact the living." And what it said to me was, it's not that he was not alive and he was contacting someone that was living. It was in the connection is where life is.
Yeah.
We need to we need to be alive. We're not alive unless we are connected to somebody. And it just touched me at such a core. It was such a call for survival and love from him. I mean, what an opener. What an opening line.
I mean,
for a guy that came from boy bands. I mean, such an open, because he had gone through a whole lot. I later understood in terms of his own life struggle and abuse, substance abuse and all that kind of stuff. And was in treatment when he wrote this song, from what I heard.
Yeah.
And so, what a call, what a plea, what a come help. I need help.
But it was such a thing with the workshops where at the beginning of the workshop everybody's like this.
Yeah. That's right.
And then and you sing the song. But by the end of the workshop, everybody was up and elated.
Yeah.
It was a great way to kind of gauge, overall the experience for people, because they were now open to receiving and being who they were, who they learned to be.
It's amazing how music can help us return people to their natural state.
Yeah.
And that is to be jubilant.
Jubilant.
I'm serious. Like you just mentioned it. Like after in 3 days going from we just got dropped off by an Uber driver who's a Liverpool guy, and he just said, we moan.
Yeah.
We moan, and then we moan about moaning. That's what we do over here. And we just had a great chuckle, and that moaning part, can just unpack itself to unveiling what's really underneath it all. And it's human beings wanting to be alive and needing to be alive and needing to be connected. And when they are, we just dance. We just celebrate. Life is a privilege.
Yeah, and it's also a privilege to know you guys and to also welcome you here into the studio, sharing just only a small tangent of what you guys are all about. Also, too, is their book Real is also available in on
Amazon.
Amazon, all the different book marketplaces. It's easy to find Real, Duane O'Kane, Captain O'Kane, and stuff like that. But the show is tonight and everything. I would like to thank you guys. They're on their road tour. They're going to Surrey next week. They're going to Dublin in 2 weeks. And then
Dungarvan.
Dungarvan?
Yeah, that's where it is.
All right, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right, Dungarvan.
Just in case people are suddenly booking flights to Dublin.
Yeah, and we're a lot. Well, are you going anywhere else before you head back over to?
No, that'll be
Just
it.
those two
That'll
stops.
be it.
And it's back home to our cats.
I'm pretty sure the cats miss you.
Yeah.
Duane, Catherine, thank you for joining me here on the Liverpool Community Podcast and everything, sharing of yourselves. And I'm hoping that you and the audience will continue to follow these two. Clear Mind International is all over the place. Well, not all over the place, but it is in a lot of different places and everything. And that Rude, actually, I think that's happening in Costa Rica.
Yeah, in March, Costa Rica.
Ireland in September.
Yep.
Ireland in September, man. Let's see, when do I got holiday coming? But so listen, rude's not rude. Anyway, I'm Chase Johnson Lynch. Thank you very much for listening here at the Liverpool Community Podcast. And for now, we out of here.